Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to make two cards for you. I cut panels of 3x4 out of a 12x12 sheet of paper, and with this layout you could make 24 cards with the same materials, but I'm not going to make 24 of these cards. I'm just going to make a few to show you how it's done. Let me move this out of the way and we can get started. Okay, today I'm going to be using the Strawberry with Die by Altenew, the Stampin Up Something to Celebrate stamp set, the Bitty Banners also by Stampin Up, embossing folder from Diaries called Heart, a Stampin Up Dotted Swiss embossing folder, and I will also need a stamp from the Stampin Up A Mother's Love stamp set, and a strawberry. I got this from the Sweet and Sassy stamp set by Stampin' Up, but you could use any sentiment that you wanted for the center and any strawberry. I'm also going to be using a Fiskars Lacy Border Punch and two EK Success punches, 2 inches and 2 1/4 inches. I'm going to be doing some embossing. So I need clear embossing powder as well as opaque white, and of course you need embossing buddy when you're embossing. And I will also need some rhinestones. On this card I have an embossed area on the outside but not on the center of the card, and I did that by using these embossing diffusers. This is an item that is sold by Sixxiz for Tim Holtz, and it allows you to replace one of the cutting plates with this, and you can either emboss everywhere except the circle or only emboss the circle. And I want to show you how this works real quick. So I have my Big Shot set up for embossing, open to tab 1. And I'm going to first go through with the regular embossing, and so you can compare how the looks are. So I'm just going to slide that paper in there, one plate, the next embossing, and the other plate on top, and just run it through. Make sure that when you're embossing, you send the folder through first. This prevents the paper from being shot out from the pressure of the machine. Okay. And as you see, you get one all over embossing. Now I'm going to take away one plate and put this second piece in. Everything is the same, the way it goes in, but this time instead of the top plate, I'm going to use this diffuser. And just send that through. And what you end up with is an area in the center that is not embossed. Okay? Now one more time I'm going to show you about the spotlight piece. Run this through, back through there again. And because it's so small, in this case I'm going to put the circle on top and the plate on top of that, so to make sure that it won't move when it runs through. Okay, and now what you end up with is an area where it's only embossed in the center. So this is the way the diffusing embosser works. Okay, all over, everything except the spotlight area, and then the spotlight area only. And now I have my two embossed panels. One is the all over heart and the other is the dotted Swiss with the center unembossed. So I'm running my embossing buddy over it, and I'm going to stamp the strawberry in the lower corner, and I have my clear embossing powder ready to go, and I'm going to emboss clear over the black. This is a lot less messy than black embossing. because the clear embossing powder will not show if you make a mistake, whereas if you make a mistake and you have a stray bit of black embossing powder, then it'll show and mess up your work. So if I'm ever needing black embossing, this is the way I do it. You of course don't have to emboss this if you didn't want to, but I just thought it would be a nice extra touch. So I'm going to quickly stamp my sentiment on here. And this, I've let this dry, by the way. I didn't mention it, but it just takes a few minutes for that embossing to dry. Now I'm going to do some very easy watercoloring with the Zig marker. So I have two shades of red, light red, and which is geranium red, and a darker red, which is wine red. So I'm going to put the lighter on the right side and the darker on the left side and leave the center open. And I'm just going to take my water brush and blend the two together. And this will make a natural highlight in the center area where the two colors meet. Very easy. Same thing for this one. And this is watercolor paper, by the way. This is the Bristol Smooth watercolor paper, which is the best for the Zig marker. Here we go. To clean my brush. And the strawberry has a little bit of stem. So I have a distress marker, and I'm just going to put a little green there. Very simple, no big deal for this. All right, now that just needs to set aside to dry. And now I have the extra 5 by 3 3/4 white panel, and I've cut it in half. And I'm going to bring in my Misty tool. And I already have my stamp on the door where I need it to be, and I'm going to use the markers and do some coloring directly on the stamp. This is the best way to get this stamp because it's multiple colors. So I'm going all over, and don't use the tip of your marker when you're inking on stamps because you don't want to mess it up. So focus on just using the side of your marker. All right, now that I have it on there, I'm going to lift this up and blow on it, huff on it to reactivate the ink. And that's all it takes. Okay. And there we are. So I need 2 of these, so I'm going to flip this around to the other side and do the same thing again. I wanted to tell you how I got the sentiment to curve. The banner is curved, but the sentiment is straight. And you can do this with any photopolymer stamp. You just put it onto the block, about generally make the curve that you want. Just eyeball it. And then you take the die cut and you just move it around a little bit until you get it the way you want it to be. This is very forgiving. And a little bit more on the end, I think. There, that should be it. Yes. So now it will correspond with the way the die cut is going. Okay, that's very simple. Now that I have it, I'll set that aside and move on. I'm also going to get the sentiment on this little piece of paper. So I'm just going to be careful to allow enough space for the banner and just stamp it right here and right there. All right, and for this, don't throw this away, you're going to need it. So this just needs a second or two to dry, and I'm going to bring in my Big Shot and do some die cutting. I have my Big Shot back, and this time I'm using my magnetic platform, and I'm going to cut the cake out. Because the two things are so close together, I couldn't really cut both at once because the dies touch. So I'm going to do them one at a time. And this die is very closely cut to the stamping, so it gives a nice smooth cut. So I'm going to run this through and I'll be right back. Okay, I also cut an additional 6 of the cake shape because I want to stack these dies to give it a little bit of dimension. So you just take some glue, in this case I'm using Gina K Connect glue, and you just stack them. 3 on one on top of the other. Make sure you line it up. Don't need too much glue between this because you don't want it to ooze out and make a huge mess. So that's 3, and then the 4th one will be the stamped image. Okay. I'll just put something on that for a moment to let that set up, and now I'm going to do the other. The Stampin' Up jig has a handle and a clear film, and you put the film in the corner of the Stampin' Up jig handle, and making sure that the stamp is in the corner as tight as you can get it, you go straight down and straight up. And this puts an imprint of the stamp where it is on the block and how it's going to print. And you use that to help you line the stamp up. So holding that down, ink the stamp in the corner, straight down and straight up. And while it's still wet, I'm going to dip it right into the white embossing powder, and then you'll be able to see it. And there we go. Happy Mother's Day. So I'm going to knock all the extra off and then emboss this real quick. Be right back. Now I'm going to border punch the 2 ends of this small piece of glitter paper. So you push the paper all the way in along the back wall as far as it'll go, and you push the paper in almost to the edge of the pushing down part, not all the way, and just push straight down. And this gives you an impression of the border. Now slide it over until you see the paper that you've punched line up with the picture. Make sure that you still have it flush all the way to the back and press. Very easy. Knock that extra out of the way. I have broken a border punch by not getting that little extra out of the way, so learn. Okay, again, all the way back. Make sure it's flat. Bring it up. Okay. A little cleanup. Now I'm going to cut this in half, directly in half. So this, as you see, will give you 2 pieces, but since I only need 1, I'm going to set this part aside. Now we're going to do a little bit more punching. I have the 2-inch circle, and I'm going to get 1 2-inch circle out of this scrap of white. And I want to try to get a circle out of here, but make sure it is as centered as you can get it. So center it this way and this way. Take your time and make sure you get it right because you don't want to mess this up. Okay. Now I'm taking the 2 1/4 inch punch, and these are the mats for the card, and I'm going to get these 2 circles out. So you can use your mat because this will be hidden by the front panel, so you can get a little bit of paper saving. So you want to make sure that you stay within where the panel will cover. So that's 1 red. and one green. I almost forgot, I need to do a little bit of ink blending. So let's see, the circle, which I cut out of white, I'm just going to take this ink blending tool and quickly go around the edges. Nothing fancy, just want to add a little bit of color. Okay, and now the white panel with the dots, I'm going to put a little bit of color here also. Try to be a little bit smoother than I did. I hit that with my blender tool really hard and it made a big circle, but I'm going to live with it. Be sure that you're only putting color in the part that is not embossed, because that's the part that's not going to show. Okay, now quickly do a little bit of coloring, and I'm going to take a little bit of the gathered twigs and put it on my clear block, and the other corner I'm going to do the candied apple and bring in my water pen and just do a little quick coloring. And I really want to get a lot of water flowing on here because I don't want it to be a thick color. Okay, that's probably good. So we have a little bit of strawberry icing here. Lost my paper towel again. And the same thing with this, a little bit of brown cake. Uh-oh, thunderstorm. Okay, this will sit and dry. By the time the rest of the card is put together, this will be completely dry. Okay. Now the rest is just simply putting everything together, and it's really simple. So I'm going to let the music run and assemble everything. And that's the finished card. When I put this one on, I was a little bit too far over, so I couldn't get the other rhinestone on that side, so I just put it on that one. And also when I did this card, I went to tape the panel down to the background before I put the black on, so I had to pull that up, but I acted quickly, so I was able to get it up without tearing it. But that's it. I'm also going to make another layout, the same layout with the same paper and materials, but it'll be a birthday card. I'm not going to film that part, but I'll show the finished pictures at the end. I'd like to thank you for watching my video. Please hit that subscribe button, and I'd like to thank my brother David for the music that he has provided, and I hope that you're enjoying it. Take care everyone, and have a happy Mother's Day.